Everybody, my name is Axisdoesart, and today we are not going to be playing any video games, but today you mythical monsters, beautiful beasties, and eldritch creatures from below get to see me do a painting, which is actually going to be a lot different than what you're probably used to. Hold on, let me actually center this bad boy properly, and yep, that's about as good as I think that's good. As you can see, my camera quality is not the best, but you know what? That's just how it's gonna have to be. So this is an art piece that I no longer feel like I want to keep as is. It is not something that brings me joy or happiness looking at it anymore. So I am actually going to be painting over it, and I'm going to be showing you guys how to actually handle paintings that you want to reuse. This is an old canvas. It was bought at basically Walmart. As you can see, staples on the back, canvas covering here. I'm actually going to cover this, and I'm going to paint some new scenes on it. So first things first, you're going to want to start with your good old-fashioned friend, gesso. Now, this is actually a, what is this called? This is like 4 ounces. They're like these paint containers versus these itty bitty baby paint containers. As you can see, they're like twice the size. So this is like a 1.5, this is like a 3 ounce. So I have gesso currently already prepped in this because I like to divvy out my gesso into these little containers here so I don't actually squirt too much gesso onto the palettes that I have, because I have some pretty messed up looking palettes here, so that I can actually do that. And depending on how I'm feeling, if I'm feeling extra spicy, I might end up tinting my gesso with color. If not, then I will probably leave it as is. I just have to make sure I can get this container open, because gesso will gesso itself shut, obviously. Still looks pretty fresh, and it's nice and thick. As you can see, we're just going to be covering up this paint. And there's no rhyme or reason. You usually just want to go with one direction that you're going to go for, and you're just going to paint it white. Basically, gesso is really good. It allows paint to stick to your canvas. It is a ground medium. Most paintings nowadays are usually pre-treated, so they already have ground mediums within them. But I like to add gesso to my canvases just to give it that little extra oomph, so that paint tends to stick better. Now this was pre-sealed as well. It was sealed with a type of varnish I like to use. I don't know if I have a can near me to show you guys, but I typically like to use Valspar Clear Coat. If I remember correctly, it is a type of clear, non-yellowing, non-archival varnish. And I can paint over it. It says it is completely okay to do. I got it in the paint section of my local Walmart, which no longer exists anymore because my local Walmart took it away. Go figure, right? And basically, we're just going to go about and we're just going to try and cover up as much of this canvas as possible, along with many of its micro textures, because as you can see, the painting does have micro textures, and this might take 2 to 3 coats of gesso to get it looking the way we want it. For now, I'm just gonna boom, 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 give it a good paint over, and as you can see, it's still ghosting a bit through, so it's probably going to take a couple of layers before I get that pure white canvas again. Don't forget to get the edges. Yes, Mehmet, I hear you. How are you, baby? Little cameo from my baby cat. What? I love my baby to death. She is my everything. If anything were to hurt her, I would probably end its existence. And that's all you have to do. I'm going to go ahead and get the gesso off of my brush by just simply boom boom, rinsing it in this water. Now this is warm water that I like to use for a lot of my stuff. It's hold on, let me cover it up. It's just warm water in a paint cup. And I also like to add a little bit of this to it. It's called Pink Soap Softball. I just add a small squirt of it, and technically it'll take anything off of your brush, and then I'll gently dab it dry with an old rag cloth. These were originally washcloths that got really old. We no longer use them. So After a certain point, we put them in the back room of our house. Basically, we have a laundry room, and a lot of our towels that we no longer use end up there. Things that are fraying, getting holes in it, things that are really old and start to stink a bit. So I've taken a couple of them, and I'm actually using them right now as paint towels, where I will actually address paint. And I like to make sure that my brush is completely clean, and then I will allow it to dry a bit. And in order to keep my gesso good and clean, I'll occasionally add like a spritz of water to the top, so that way it does not dry out. The last thing you want is for any of your paints to dry out or to get lumpy, chunky. Sometimes a small amount of acetone can help too. Just a small amount. Do not use a large amount of acetone if your paint is going to touch. It's still wet, so we're going to wait. So how have you guys been? I've been pretty well. I started my new job. I've been getting along very well with coworkers. Things have been looking up. Excuse me. I'm running out of breath. I think I talk too much. Or it could just be the coffee making my heart beat fast. I like to drink a lot of caffeine. It helps keep me awake. Oh, alrighty. Sorry, I'm also texting a friend. I'm texting VixieCat. You can check them out on Twitch. Eventually, they will probably switch over to YouTube videos from their Twitch. They do a lot of Twitch streaming. They like to play Overwatch, Overwatch 2, Fortnite. They will occasionally play Raft with me and Phil. They will also play occasional games like Pixelmon. It all depends on what they're doing and what they want to do. What is it, Mehmet? What? What has gotten into you? Do understand that when you use a lot of dark colors, it's going to take longer for the gesso in order to actually cover it. So it's definitely going to take a couple coats, as well as all the impasto, which means all those lovely brush strokes that I did for like the grass and stuff, or like the wavy texture, and some of these little micro textures, like these bumps and lumps from previous stars and stuff. Yeah, that's going to be hard to cover. Every time I check, I'm just making sure that it's getting slowly more tacky over time, so I can eventually apply the second coat. You don't want to apply it while it's still extra tacky, because otherwise it will actually start to lump together. They will start to stick to each other, and then you'll have little lumps all over your canvas. So always make sure that your paint and your gesso is completely dry before you start adding the next coat. It is very imperative that you do. Remember, acrylic paint takes longer to dry than gesso takes, because gesso is a thicker medium. Acrylics can usually be watered down or thinned out, depending on what you're using, unless you're using a thicker medium paint, which does exist. Now, if you do want a thicker medium paint, but you don't want the extra cost, I recommend cornstarch. Cornstarch is a natural thickener and will definitely make your paint nice and thick without being lumpy chunky. For sweetening the pot or anything, I am letting you know right now there is a high probability that this will end up being sped up just a little bit. So we'll probably speed up through like very calm moments, or he can even splice my voice and actually speed up the footage versus my voice, depending on what he's doing. I could end up just re-recording all of my voice lines and then sending it to him in a separate thing, and then he just layers it over, which could also work. Talking to you, Phil. Hi, Phil. Hello. Now you're probably wondering what exactly I'm going to turn this painting into. And that's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it. It's actually going to be a red panda scene in a bamboo forest. No, Mehmet, stop it. Which was an idea given to me by my good friend VixieCat. And I really like the idea, so I am currently running with it.
346 minutes later.
Alrighty, my gesso is good. We're going in for layer 2. Now this is probably going to be a very simple painting. I'm not actually having like high expectations for the outcome of this right now, because the point is covering up the art piece, fixing the mistakes of the past, wanting to give this painting a fresh and lively lease on life. right or wrong way to art. You just feel your way through it. Whatever feels best to you. Now, as you can see, this version is getting a lot prettier over time. Don't mind me, I actually have one of those little silicone facial scrubbers stuck to the bottom, or well, technically it's stuck to the side of my paint cup. You know, the ones you can get at Walmart for like $2 in a 2-pack? Yeah, I'm using one of those little silicone face scrubbers at the bottom of my paint, so that I am actually capable of using them to give like a very gentle abrasive scrubbing, so I can get all of the paint out of the inside bristles of my brush. I have a large variety of items. I have in the back sponges. I have different types of colorful medium like iridescent, glossy, matte. I also have some Mod Podge behind that and some chunky glitter. That's actually holographic blue glitter. Extra paint bottles. Those are not technically mine. They're for a different project. And then I have my pre-mixed paints. As you can see, I work with a lot of blues and greens, which is usually what my color spectrum is. I have a really good color sense for things that are blue, and especially in like the blue-green category. That's not to say I don't like other colors too. I absolutely love like the other pops of colors like oranges, reds, pinks, and purples are really nice, and yellows are very fun and exciting. And depending on how you want your piece to look will also depend on how you actually color your painting. Like if you're going for a very warm and sunny vibe, you're going to want to use a lot of yellows and oranges within your piece, and a lot of bright, vibrant, verdant greens. I might end up actually going for a fourth layer. I just really want to make sure that I have a good, flat, clean surface to work on for this. Because I don't want color contamination, and I don't want images to ghost through the painting and obscure the original image that I'm going for. Now, one thing I do want to mention is that the bottom of the painting this is resting on has not been painted yet. So I will probably end up gessoing it later on after the video, and I will end up probably painting it the color I want. But for right now, all I'm doing is I'm just making sure that these three sides and the front image is the thing that I'm taking care of. So after this, I'll probably do one more coat just to make sure that all of the rest that is trying to ghost through is just completely covered. Eventually, I will probably have my setup set up so I can actually do like other things for you guys that would probably help make things like a lot more relaxing for these painting videos. Things like maybe background music for you guys, like stuff that's not probably gonna get me copyright claimed. Don't mind me, I accidentally did get paint on me. No harm, no foul though. I actually keep a thing of watered down softball pink paint next to me, or speedball, sorry, not softball, speedball. And its purpose is to actually clean myself up in the event I do something stupid, like accidentally get paint on myself. Like I said, there really isn't a way to rush this. It's just, you gotta go at your own pace. There's like no better way to say it other than that. You can't just fast track your way through all of this. It doesn't work like that. As much as I wish it did. And like I said, there really isn't a way to rush this. It's just, you gotta go at your own pace. There's like no better way to say it other than that. You can't just fast track your way through all of this. It doesn't work like that. As much as I wish it did. I am actually going back and I'm going to touch up some of the edges as well. I really like this warm golden yellow color. This mustard color, if you will. So I'm going through and I'm actually touching up the edges again to make sure I get the look I'm going for. And I am using a smaller detail brush for this, so I can make sure I can get all of the white edges along it. And this is probably how we're going to end up doing this, so that I can cut down on time. I'll add a layer, pause the video, add another layer, pause the video, and continue to talk to you guys while I do so, just to make sure you guys are entertained. Because, you know, nothing's more irritating than being like, are you not entertained? It's a nice deep green. This is actually a mix. I can't remember what I mixed it with. I do know there's a little bit of black in here. I think there's a bit of classic green in it. That's the darkest green I have. And I think it has a little bit of aqua too, to give it that deep color. I am using one of my not so fancy stippling brushes to get the color going. Dark color. And I'm probably going to end up mixing it with something. How about this color here to give it that sort of dark look. It was originally a cool tone gray, now it's like a regular old mid-tone gray. Like a deep mid-tone gray. It's not really warm or cold. It's that in between. So it's giving me whatever I need it for. get that started. And I'm gonna let that actually sit for a bit. And I'm gonna cover that up with the color I need it to be. Probably will need to take the label off of it eventually. But we're gonna let that dry again, and I'll see you back in a minute. And we're back. No worries, no worries. Okay, so now we need to start on the next layer, which is gonna be this lovely little background right here. Don't mind me, I'm just covering up some spots that I didn't fully get. It does not have to be perfect, but it does have to look kind of like a nice transition. Remember, these are supposed to represent the ground, leaves, and that kind of stuff. Transition right about there. And basically you just want to keep on going, and then you want to start adding stalks. Like little stalks of what would be your bamboo. So you'd need a nice fine liner brush or a detail brush to help start with like very thin ones, and you want like a thicker, more chunky brush, like square tip, to do like thicker ones. Something kind of like this bad boy right here. He's very square, as you can see. I have quite a few brushes, so I'll be using a couple of those. But as soon as this dries, then I'll start adding more stalks and stuff. It'll look great, trust me.